Hello everyone and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. We're holding a Mishnah Berurah Chel Gimel, and in Mirz Hashem today we will be learning Daf Daled Amud Aleph. We are continuing to learn Hilchos Shabbos, and we are continuing to discuss the very complex halachos of Amira La'akum. Our learning today should be a schus for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael Hanesunim Batzara Ubashivya Ha'imnim Bein Bayam Ubein Bayabasha Hamakim Yerachem Alehem V'yaytziyah mitzara levacha be'afela la'oiro mishibud l'geula hashta b'gala u'vizman kariv v'naymar amen. So, since we began Siman Reish Mem Gimel, we've been discussing the Isser D'Rabbanan of Amira La'akum, the Isser for a Yisrael to have an Eino Yehudi do melachah for him on Shabbos. And we're going to be continuing here in Siman Reish Mem Daled to discuss the same topic. But today, we're going to be introducing a new business arrangement, a new relationship between a Yisrael employer and an Eino Yehudi employee. And that is the arrangement of a kavlan. What's a kavlan? So let's take a look here at Siman Reish Mem Daled. Ezay melachos yachal Eino Yehudi la'asos ba'ad ha-Yisrael. What types of melacha, under what sorts of arrangement, can a Yisrael have an Eino Yehudi do melachah for him? Ubay vav seifim, and here we have 6 seifim. Says the Mechaber Sif Aleph. Paisek Adam Pirush. The Ramah says, what do these words mean? Paisek Adam Pirush Masne. He can make a tanai, meaning he can make a deal. He could strike a deal with an Eino Yehudi. He could contract an Eino Yehudi. Paisek Adam Pirush Masne ima Eino Yehudi al hamalacha. He could contract an Eino Yehudi to perform a job. So this means he's hiring an Eino Yehudi by the job, not by the time. He's not paying him per day. He's not paying him per hour. He's paying him for the job. V'koitzeitz damim, and set a price for that job. So Reuven could hire Tony to fix his dining room table. Reuven tells Tony, who's a carpenter, I'm hiring you to fix my dining room table for $250. V'ha'eino Yehudi oisel atzmai, and the Eino Yehudi is going to complete the job per his own schedule. He's going to do it however works best for him. If it works well to work on Sunday, he's going to work on Sunday. If it works well to work on Tuesday, he's going to work on Tuesday. And if it works for Tony to work on Shabbos, Tony's going to work on Shabbos. Continues the Mechaber. And even if the Eino Yehudi decides to perform the work on Shabbos, mutter, this is mutter. Says the Mishnah Berurah's Katan Aleph. V'koitzeitz damim. So the Yisrael is hiring the Eino Yehudi to perform a job. V'koitzeitz damim, and they're setting a price for the job. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Hainu kablanus. This is what's called kablanus. This business arrangement is called kablanus. Shemasne imai, where the Yisrael makes a deal with the Eino Yehudi, sheyasa loy eze melacha, so that the Eino Yehudi should perform a set job for him, beschar davar kotzav, in return for a set price. Okay, I want to skip the next line and a half of the Mishnah Berurah for the moment, for the sake of continuity, and go straight to Mishnah Berurah's Katan Beis. Mutter. The Mechaber said such a business arrangement is mutter. And one of the reasons that this is mutter is going to be a concept that we've seen already earlier, which is nachri adaita de nafshei ka'avid. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Eis Katan Beis, mutter, this is mutter. Why? Tekei van shekatzatz. Because since the rate for this job has been set, Tony knows he's getting $250 for repairing this dining room table. He's getting the same $250 if he finishes the job in a day. He's getting the same $250 if it takes him 3 days to finish the job. The rate for the job has been set. When he decides to go work on Shabbos, for whose benefit is he working on Shabbos? He's working on Shabbos. If he chooses to do so, he's doing that for himself. Why? Lemaher, in order to hurry up, lahashlim melachah, to finish the job and get paid. The Yisrael ain't paid bazeh. To Ruvain, who hired Tony the carpenter to fix the dining room table, it means nothing to him. He's not makbid. He doesn't dafka want Tony to work on Shabbos. The Yisrael ain't paid bazeh. Dem lo yaseu hayoim, because as far as Ruvain is concerned, if the job is not completed today, yaseu lemachar, the job will be completed tomorrow, and I'm going to get my dining room table and I'm going to pay the same $250. So this is why it's mutter. The reason why it's mutter is because under the arrangement of a kablan, there is no amir alakum. Because let's break it down. Tony has the dining room table that he has to repair. If Tony decides to take the dining room table into his workshop and start doing the work or completing the work on Shabbos, is he doing that as a shliach of Ruvain? Is he working on Shabbos as a shliach of Ruvain? No, he's not benefiting Ruvain by the fact that he does the work on Shabbos. Ruvain gets the same benefit if he does it on Sunday, if he does it on Monday, if he does it on Tuesday. Ruvain did not instruct him to do it on Shabbos. If Ruvain would instruct him to do it on Shabbos, that would be usher. Then he's mamish making him a shliach to work on Shabbos. But in our case, he didn't instruct him to work on Shabbos. And he gets no benefit from Tony doing the work on Shabbos. So who does get the benefit? The benefit is Tony's benefit. So when we look at this job and the performance of this job from a very high level, we look at it and we say, why is Tony doing the work? Tony is doing the work because he's making $250. Tony is doing the work on Shabbos because he wants to finish the job faster, because he wants to get paid faster. Ruvain has nothing from the melachah iser b'Shabbos. Yes, his dining room table is being repaired, but his dining room table could be repaired on Monday, on Wednesday, on Thursday. He doesn't need it repaired on Shabbos. So he's not really the beneficiary of the melachah that's being done on Shabbos, and therefore there's no amir la'akum. Continues the Mishnah Berurah over here, nice cotton bays, and he says, De'im koivei melachah b'Shabbos. Also, if Ruvain would mamish instruct Tony to do the melachah on Shabbos, that would taka be aser. Kilakaman 7 Reish Mem Zayin Sif Aleph. Now, I just want to go back now to the line and a half of Mishnah Berurah that we skipped in Mishnah Berurah Ois Katan Aleph. So in Ois Katan Aleph, the Mechaber told me that what's happening over here is Ruvain's contracting Tony to do a job. He's setting a set price that Tony is going to get for the job. So Tony is getting paid. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Let's say Tony is not getting paid. Let's say Tony agrees to repair the dining room table, not for pay, but for toivas hana. Tony is Ruvain's neighbor, and he says, oh, your dining room table broke? I'll fix your dining room table for you. You know, it's a neighborly thing. Nah, you don't have to pay me. What do you mean, we're good buddies? I'll fix the dining room table, I'll do it for nothing. Now, you see, over here, we have the potential for a problem. Says the Mishnah Berurah, for the halachah of that, ayin l'kabam b'simin reish b'em zayin sif daled, or b'simin reish dun beis sif beis. So over here, I just want you to understand something. What we're saying over here is that a kablan arrangement is mutter. Now, the key for why a kablan arrangement is mutter is really the concept of nachri adaita de nafsheka of it. When an Eino Yehudi performs melachah on Shabbos, and ultimately a Yisrael is going to benefit from that melachah, in order to decide whether there's an amir la'akum problem or not, we need to look and we need to flesh it out, and we need to get a sense. Why is the Eino Yehudi doing this melachah on Shabbos? Who is the primary beneficiary of the melachah that's being performed on Shabbos? Is the Eino Yehudi doing that melachah on Shabbos as a shliach of the Yisrael, as an agent of the Yisrael, and the primary beneficiary of that melachah is the Yisrael? In that case, we have an amir la'akum problem. So, for example, let's take the example of a schir yoim. A schir yoim is a hired hand who's a per diem employee. So that situation would be, Ruvain has a field. Ruvain needs somebody to plow his field. Now, Ruvain doesn't want to give this field out to a sharecropper. Ruvain wants to keep 100% of the crop yield of this field. So he's not interested in a sharecropper arrangement. But he also doesn't have time to go plow his field. So he wants to hire somebody to plow the field. So he meets Tony in the hardware store, and he asks Tony, maybe you have some free time? I need somebody to plow my field. Tony says, yep, I'm free all day Saturday. I could plow your field on Saturday. So Ruvain says, you know what, Tony, I'll pay you $500 for the day. Come plow my field on Saturday. That's Amir La'akum 101. That is 100% usher. Why is that usher? I mean, Tony is getting a $500 paycheck. Why don't we say, Nachri Adaita den Avshekovid? Why don't we say that when Tony gets up on the plow, turns the ignition, and goes and drives the plow and does the plowing, why don't we say, he's not a shliach for Ruvain. He's not doing it for Ruvain. He's doing it for himself. He's doing it to earn a $500 paycheck. Nachri Adaita den Avshekovid. Why is there Amir La'akum? The answer is because the plowing, who's the beneficiary of the plowing? Who's going to enjoy the result of the plowing? Who's going to get the wheat? Who's going to make the money on selling the wheat? Ruvain is. The melachah is for Ruvain. The melachah is not for Tony. Tony is getting a paycheck. How is Tony getting a paycheck? Tony is getting a paycheck because Ruvain needs plowing done. Tony is going to do the plowing for Ruvain. He's a shliach of Ruvain's. He is going to do Ruvain's plowing for Ruvain. Because he's performing melachah for Ruvain, he will get a paycheck. Now, that paycheck is not going to go up and is not going to go down based on the quality of the plowing job that he does. He's going to go plow, and he's going to get a $500 paycheck. But all of that plowing is being done b'shlichus of Ruvain. And therefore, that's Amir La'akum, and that's Aser. By a Kablan, it's not that way. By a Kablan, Ruvain has a dining room table that he needs repaired. He's hiring Tony as a Kablan to repair the dining room table. He could care less when the dining room table gets repaired. The amount of money that he's paying is a fixed amount of money. Now, let's break it down. Why is Tony going to pick up an impact driver and screws and a drill and a hammer and fix the dining room table? Why is he doing that? He's doing that because he's a carpenter and he gets $250 for doing that work, right? And should he choose to do it on Shabbos, is he a shliach of Ruvain's to do it on Shabbos? The melachah that he's doing on Shabbos, who's the beneficiary? When we now look and we see Tony doing carpentry work on Shabbos, who is the beneficiary? Now, it's true that the beneficiary of the work ultimately is going to be Ruvain, because Ruvain's going to get a repaired dining room table. But the beneficiary of the fact that it was done on Shabbos, that is 100% Tony. Tony is choosing to do the work on Shabbos for his own benefit so that the job should get finished quicker and he should make his $250 faster and he should be able to go over and take on the next job and make another $250 faster. So when you see Tony going ahead and doing the work on Shabbos, is he working on Shabbos as a shliach of Ruvain's? No. He's working on Shabbos for himself. He's working at Shabbos to knock out the job faster. That's why he's working on Shabbos. So we don't see him as being a shliach of Ruvain's, and we don't see Amir La'akum in this situation, as opposed to Tony driving the plow, where we do see Amir La'akum, because he was hired to work on Shabbos. Reuven hired him, go work on Saturday, and we can't say Adaita denavshekavid, because the work, the melachah that's being done clearly benefits Reuven. Reuven is going to be the beneficiary of the plowing, not Tony. Tony's not the beneficiary of the plowing. So that's the key difference over here between the Kablan and the Schir Yoim. Okay, now, let's go weiter. The Mechaber is now going to qualify this. Says the Mechaber, second line down in Siman Reish Mem Dalet, in middle of the line. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shakal limud v'rei. Bameh dvarim amurim. When is this said, that this arrangement of Kablan is mutter? Says the Mechaber, Bameh dvarim amurim, when is this true? B'tzina. When the work, the nature of the work that's being done is that it's discrete. Now, when we say b'tzina over here, the Mishnah Berurah is very quick to point out that b'tzina does not mean that the work is being done under wraps, that the work is being done in a closed building. It's not what it means. The work could even be done b'farhesia. The work could even be done outside. B'tzina means that the nature of the job is b'tzina. When people see the job being done, they don't know that it's being done for a yid. So in our case, where Reuven is paying Tony to repair a dining room table, Tony has a workshop. The workshop could even be an open yard in Rishus Harabim, but all the time Tony is doing carpentry work in his workshop. It's not pshat that people walk by and, oh, look, Tony is doing Yiddish work. He's working for a yid on Shabbos. No, he's doing what he always does. He's repairing tables. He's building chairs. He's building furniture. So the nature of it is b'tzina, the nature of the fact that this is work being done on Shabbos that has a connection to Yisrael, that is discrete. Meaning, she'ein makira makol shezu melachah hamnaseis b'Shabbos shel Yisraeli, where people do not see right away that the work that's being done on Shabbos by this Eino Yehudi is work that's being done for a Yid. Aval, however, im hoise yedua u'meforsemes, if it would be well known and it would be public that the work that's being done is being done for a Yid, sheharaya es Eino Yehudi oisek Eino Yedei shekatzatz, so that when a Yid sees the Eino Yehudi doing Yiddish work, he has no way of knowing that this arrangement was a Kabbalan arrangement. He doesn't know. He walks by and he sees an Eino Yehudi doing work for a Yid on Shabbos. He has no access to the contract. He doesn't know under what arrangement is being done. And therefore, v'omer, it's very possible that the onlooker is going to say, she'ploni sachar ha'eino Yehudi lasais melachah b'Shabbos. He's going to look and he's going to think, hey, this must be a per diem employee. This must be a schir yoim. In that case, that would be a problem. That would be asur. Lefikach, therefore, hapaisik ma'ena Yehudi livnois loy chatzeroi oy koisloi. Therefore, if somebody wants to contract an Eino Yehudi to build a chutzner for him, maybe he wants him to go build the walls around a courtyard, or to stam build a wall for a house. Now, that kind of construction work, that's work that's being done by mechubar lekarka. That's work that's being done by things that are attached to the ground. And like the Mishnah Berurah is going to point out, anytime work is done mechubar lekarka, the assumption always is that people who walk by, they know who the chutzner belongs to. They know who the field belongs to. They know who the house belongs to. So they see a contractor going ahead and building a wall, they know it's Yiddish work. Oy liktzar loy sadehu. Or if somebody goes and hires somebody to harvest his field, and the business arrangement is the arrangement of a kablan. He's hiring him per the job. He's telling him, I want you to go harvest that entire field for $5,000, and I don't care when you do it, and I don't care how long it takes. So that's mamish the business arrangement of a kablan, which we're saying inherently is a business arrangement which is mutter. Im haisa ha-melachah b'medina, if this is happening within the city limits, or even outside the city limits, but within the tchum, asur loy lahanicha lasleis loy melachah b'Shabbos. It would be aser for the Yid to allow the Eino Yehudi to do this work on Shabbos. Why? Mipnei haroyim, because of onlookers, she'enim yodim shapasak, who don't know and don't understand that the work is being done as a kablan. So in essence, we're saying it would be mutter because it would be aser because of marasayin. So again, let's just recap because we said a whole lot over here. Basically, what the Mechaber is laying out to us is the hiring arrangement of a kablan. The key difference between a kablan and a per diem employee is that a per diem employee is paid by the day. So if you hire him to work on Shabbos, there's a bona fide Amir Lakum problem. You are paying him to go ahead and to do work on Shabbos. And you're going to reap the benefit of that work that he does on Shabbos. That's Aser, that's Amir Lakum 101. But if you hire a kablan, when you hire a kablan, you're not hiring him by time. You're not hiring him to do the work at a specific time. You're hiring him for a set amount of money to perform and complete a job. In that case, that's really inherently mutter. Why is it inherently mutter? Because there's no Amir Lakum. Why is there no Amir La'akum? Because he is doing the work because he's getting a paycheck. Not only, that wouldn't be enough. Not only is he doing the work because he's getting a paycheck, but even the decision to work on Shabbos is for his benefit, not for the Yisrael's benefit. He is deciding to work on Shabbos so that he should hurry up and complete the job. The Yid couldn't care less if he works on Shabbos. So a kablan arrangement is inherently mutter because it does not entail Amir La'akum. Having said that, the Mechaber says, we still have a worry of Maris Ayin. Since we have a worry of Maris Ayin, the caveat to this halacha is, we only allow this to be done when it's Bitsina. What does Bitsina mean? Bitsina means that Tony the carpenter is doing his work, and he's doing his carpentry work in his yard like he always does, and it's not open and mefursim that the work that he's doing right now, he's doing on behalf of a Yid. But if we're talking about work that's not Bitsina, and the work that the Mechaber names is work that's being done on things that are mechuber lekarka. So if you hire a contractor to do construction work on your house on Shabbos, that's aser. Why is it aser? Because of Maris Ayin. What's the Maris Ayin? When a Yid walks down the street and he sees Tony the contractor doing construction work on Ruvain's house, everybody knows it's Ruvain's house. They see Tony doing work on Ruvain's house. They're not going to stop and say, oh, it's mutter because Tony is a kablan. No, they're going to look and say, wow, it looks like Ruvain hired a per diem employee to go perform forbidden melachah on Shabbos, which would be aser min hadin. So because of Maris Ayin, when there's a very clear connection to a Yid, we aser this, but if it's Bitsina, it's mutter. Let's see the Mishnah Berurah back on Dalet Amud Aleph, Ois Katan Gimel. Bitsina. The Mechaber said this is mutter when the melachah is Bitsina. Chavetz Chaim wants to make sure we understand the meaning of Bitsina in this context. Hainu shehi meleches tzina. What we mean over here is that the nature of the job is Bitsina. Very strange wording that the Chavetz Chaim chose to use. I'm having a little difficulty really understanding the wording that he used. But what it seems to mean is, Hainu shi meleches tzina, the nature, the details of the job are discrete. Lefi she'ena koil mikirin shehi shel Yisrael. People don't know that this job is being done for a Yid. So it's Bitsina, meaning it doesn't scream at you, oh, you see Tony fixing a dining room table? That's a Yid's dining room table. No, it could be a Yid's dining room table. It could be an Italian's dining room table. We don't know whose dining room table it is. So therefore, that's called Bitsina, Ukamayshim Afarish, like the Mechaber explains. Aval, however, says the Mishnah, you should understand what Bitsina does not mean. Even if the work is actually being done in public, Shari, that's mutter. The point of Bitsina is that people don't know that the work is being done on behalf of a Yid. Eis Katan Daled, she'ein makirim hakoil, where it's not that everybody sees that this is Yiddish work. Says the Mishnah Berurah, even if some people are going to know that the work is being done on behalf of a Yid, could be some people will walk by Tony's yard and they'll recognize the table. They'll say, oh, I know that table. I ate by Ruvain last week. That's clearly Ruvain's dining room table. So some people might know that the work that's being done is being done on behalf of a Yid. That's still okay. Even though we're going to see later, Mirza Hashem in tomorrow's shir in the Ramah, that sometimes you even have to be chayshit for a mute. Sometimes there are cases where, even if it's only people from your household, or maybe guests that you have in your house, even if there's only a makom to worry that they're going to be chayshit you, that's enough to make something aser. Sham, over there in what the Ramah is talking about, shehi meleches mechuber, that again is talking about avodah melachah that's being done on mechuber lekarka. By mechuber lekarka we're machmer, because ustam mechuber shem ba'olav nikra alav, because the rule of thumb is that when we deal with mechuber lekarka, we assume everybody knows who it belongs to. The rule of thumb is a house, everybody knows whose house that is. A field, everybody knows whose field that is. A dining room table, the default assumption isn't that everybody knows who the dining room table belongs in. So by mechuber lekarka, we're machmir, and even if there's only a small amount of people that might have a maris ayin issue, we're machmir and we say it's aser. Hechmiru by b'yoser. Ois katnei lefikach. The Mechaber said, therefore, since we make this distinction between bitzina and not bitzina, lefikach, the halacha is, the Mechaber said, if you want to hire a contractor to do work mechuber lekarka, you want to hire a contractor to do construction work on your house, to build walls in your chotzer, that the Mechaber says is a problem. Lefikach, ritzaynei loimer, what the Mechaber wants to say is, distam mechuber, again, where we're dealing with mechuber lekarka, hevi ki'ilu yadua umufursemeh sheishal Yisrael. The assumption is that everybody knows, and it's public knowledge, who everything belongs to. If you have him do work on something in your chotzer, or a wall of your house, or something of that nature that's mechuber lekarka, that would be also because that's not considered bitzina. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cutting vav, va'afilu imhu oimid b'malkaim she'en yadua shehu shaloi. Let's say you want to hire a contractor to build a wall for you, but you're not hiring a contractor to build a wall around your house. You're not hiring a contractor to build a shed in your backyard. You own a property that's 2 miles away from your house in a nondescript lot, and you want to hire a contractor to build a wall in that lot. So how does anybody know that that lot belongs to you? Says the Mishnah Berurah, that's still a problem. Even if the chotzer or the wall that you're having the contractor build is not located in a place that's connected to you, it's not by your house, gam ken aser, it's still aser. Why? Because the neighbors, the Yiddish neighbors of that property that's 2 miles away from your house, they know that it's your property, right? The people on your block don't know that that property 2 miles away belongs to you. But the neighbors of that property 2 miles away, they know that it belongs to you. And that's a problem of Marasayan. And when they see Tony, the contractor, doing work over there, they're going to identify it with you. They're going to say, oh, you hired a per diem employee to do work on Shabbos, which is awesome. Now the Mishnah Berurah points out a very interesting little problem with something that the Mechaber said here on the bottom line of Daled Amud Aleph. The Mechaber was giving us cases where you're not allowed to hire a kablan to do work for you on Shabbos. Why? Because of Marasayan. Now again, let's remember, what's the Marasayan? The problem over here is you're hiring a kablan. A kablan is mutter, because there's no mir lakum. The problem is that since this is public, when people see the work being done for you, they're not going to assume that you hired a kablan. They don't have access to your contracts, so they don't know that the worker is a kablan. So what are they going to think? they're going to think the worker is a schir yom. They're going to think he's a per diem employee, and you are being over on Amir Lakum. That's what they're going to think. Came the Mechaber, and he gave us cases where this Marasayan problem is a problem. Okay, what were his cases? Live nice loy chatzeroi, to do construction work in your chatzar. Oy kosloi, or to build a wall for you. Okay, those are mechuber lekarka, and by mechuber lekarka we assume that people know that the land belongs to you, and they're going to be choshed you that you hired a schir yom. Then comes the Mechaber and he gives us another example. Oy liktzar loy sadehu, or to harvest your field. Wait a second. If you have an Eino Yehudi harvesting your field, there's an Amir La'akum problem? Didn't we say in Siman Reish Mem Gimel that you could go ahead and you could lease out your field to an Eino Yehudi? Why? Because when people walk down the street and they see Tony driving the combine in your field, they're going to assume that he's a sharecropper. They're going to assume that he's an orus. And an arisus arrangement is mutter, because nachriya daita the nafshek of it. So that's what we said in Reish Mem Gimel. In Reish Mem Gimel, we said you're allowed to hire an Eino Yehudi to go work your field, because there's no marasayan. Why is there no marasayan? Because it's very common to give out your field to an orus under an arisus arrangement. Now over here in Reish Mem Daled, we're saying you're not allowed to hire an Eino Yehudi to harvest your field. Why? Because there's a marasayan problem. Why? Because people are going to think it's a schir yom. Why are they going to think he's a schir yom? Why are they going to look at Tony and say he's a per diem employee? They should look at Tony driving the combine and assume that he's an orus. And if he's an orus, it's mutter. That's what we said in Reish Mem Gimel. This is the Mishnah Berurah's bomb kasha over here. Says the Mishnah Berurah's cotton Zion. Liktzar loy sadeh. V'afa gav de derech sadeh la'arisus. Even though we just said in Reish Mem Gimel that it's common to give out a sadeh to a sharecropper, v'im kain, and if so, yizberu shalakacha ba'arisus, the default would be that people should think that Tony is an orus, and that's mutter, k'moi shekasa of Siman Reish Mem Gimel Sev Aleph, like we said beferish in Siman Reish Mem Gimel, mikamakam aser. In our case, we are hiring Tony as a kablan to go ahead and harvest the field. That's aser. Why? The truth is that we should realize why it's aser based on Mishnah Berurahs that we saw on Gimel Amud Beis. Says the Mishnah Berurah, I'll tell you why it's aser. Deshani hasam, because over there in Reish Mem Gimel, where we said there's no marasayan, over there it's different. You know why? Because over there, the kishayachkeru hadavar. Because when people look into what really happened with that field, yimotze shekenhu, they're going to realize that Itaka was an orus. Sha'enu Yehudi chelik paperis. You see, in Reish Mem Gimel, what did we say in Reish Mem Gimel? In Reish Mem Gimel, we said you're allowed to lease out your sadeh under the business arrangement of schirus. What's the business arrangement of schirus? The business arrangement of schirus, if you remember, was the Eino Yehudi is going to pay you $10,000 for the year, and he's going to do with the field what he wants. You get your $10,000. You can care less what the Eino Yehudi does with the field. You don't care if he leaves it fallow. You don't care if he plants it. You don't care what he does with it. You got your $10,000. You're done. You're removed from the sadeh. Now, the Eino Yehudi who leased it, he's going to go ahead, plant crops. He's going to generate revenue. And we said that that's mutter. Why is that mutter? The reason it's mutter is because the typical arrangement to lease out a field is the arrangement of arisus, a sharecropper. And a sharecropper arrangement is mutter because nachri adaita the nafshek of it. So when somebody sees Tony driving the combine, they're going to assume it's arisus. Now, very good. What's going to happen at the end of the season? At the end of the season, by harvest time, it's going to become clear. By harvest time, if Tony goes ahead and keeps all of the crop, then everybody is going to know that it was a schirus arrangement. And a schirus arrangement is mutter. If at harvest time people see that Tony takes 50% of the crop, then they're going to say, oh, he was an Orus, and an Orus is mutter. But what happens if at harvest time they go ahead and they see that Tony didn't take any of the crop? What happens if by harvest time they see that Reuven, the owner of the field, takes all of the grain and puts it in his silo? Well, in that case, Tony was not a sharecropper, and he also wasn't a leaser. He didn't lease the field and keep all the profits. Reuven got all the profits. So then what was he? It sure looks like he was a schir yoim. It looks like he was a paid employee. That's the problem over here, says the Mishnah Berurah. In Reish Mem Gimel, when we said that you're allowed to do schirus because people are going to assume it was arisus, the truth is going to come out at the end of the season. At the end of the season, people are going to see either the Ein Yehudi took 50% of the crop, so it was arisus, or he took 100% of the crop, so it was schirus. Either way, it was mutter. But here in Reish Mem Daled, where you hired a kablan, so you hired Tony under the arrangement of kablanus. You gave him $1,000 for the job of plowing the field, and he could do it whenever he wants. Is Tony going to take any of the harvest? No. The whole harvest is going to go to Reuven, the Yiddish owner. So then people are going to look, and they're going to say, wait a second, so what was the business arrangement? And they're going to be choshed that the business arrangement was a schir yoim. And that's why here in Reish Mem Daled, the Mechaber says that you cannot hire somebody to harvest your field as a kablan. Spells out the Mishnah Berurah inside. The Shani Asam, over there in Reish Mem Gimel, it was different. The Kishayakru Adavar, because when people look into what actually happens at the end of the season, Yematzei Shekenu, they're going to see the truth. Sho'einu Yehudi Chelik Beperis. If the guy was a sharecropper, they're going to see that Tony took 40%, 50%, 60%, whatever the percentage was, of the yield. Aval Haka, but here in Reish Mem Daled, where you hired a kablan to harvest the field, Sheyiru Be'ein Sakotzir, at harvest time they're going to see, She'einu Yehudi Noitel Berevach, that the Ein Yehudi is not taking any of the yield, Yedu L'mafreya Del Avaris Haya. So they're going to know that he wasn't an Orus. Oh, if he wasn't an Orus, what was he? V'yechashtu, so then they're going to suspect Sheschir Yoim Haya, that he was a per diem employee. And why are they going to think that? T'shchiach liskar payalim liyamim l'melachah, because it is very common that you hire per diem employees. So they're going to think that Reuven hired a per diem employee to work for him on Shabbos, which would be awesome. Va'afil minig ir liskar b'kiboilus, even if the minig of that place is that people do hire employees as a kablan, where they pay them for the job with no time restrictions, das ataz lahachmir, it's the opinion of the Taz, but you have to be machmir, shaloi lahanicha la'ein Yehudi lasis b'sadeh b'Shabbos v'Yom Tov, not to allow an Ein Yehudi to do avodas hakarka, to do field work, to do work b'machobel hakarka on Shabbos or Yom Tov, even with kablonis. V'chol shkei b'binyan abayis, certainly construction work. Da'akati yechashdu b'schir yoim, because even though it's common to hire a kablan, it's also common to hire a per diem employee. Shegam zehu regilus. V'yesha b'kilin b'zeh. The Mishnah Berurah does bring down the sheet of Rabbi Kiva Eger, who was mekel kisheminig kol irhu b'kiboilus. Rabbi Kiva Eger said, if the minig in the whole city is to hire workers b'kablanus, which is mutter, so then you could be mekel and you could allow an Ein Yehudi to do work as a kablan in a field or construction work when that's the prevalent minig. Points out the Mishnah Berurah in the brackets, the kiboilus hu dafka kishakala malachi kiboilus. But you have to be careful. Kablan means that all the work that's being done is being done by kablanim. La fuke, this stands in contrast to a situation where imrak ha'adricha levadoi hu kablan. Sometimes the minig was that the site manager, the construction manager, he was a kablan. He got paid $10,000 to oversee the entire construction job. So you paid an adrichal, maybe this is kind of like a general contractor, you paid an adrichal, a site manager, $10,000 to oversee the entire construction project of a house. So he's a Kablan. He's getting paid by the job. He's not getting paid. So I didn't hire him to work on Shabbos. I don't care if he works on Shabbos. So he's a Kablan. That's inherently mutter. But how about the sheetrock people? How about the spackling, taping and spackling people? How about the framing people? Are they also Kablanim? Or are they schir yoim? Are they per diem employees? So says the Mishnah Berurah here, be careful. Realize that we talk about kibaylis, who davke kishakalam malachu be kibaylis. All the work has to be b'kibaylis. Lafuke emrako adrichal avadehu kablan ushara mesayim derek l'sachram l'pamim l'yoim, and the other employees are per diem employees. Va'afilu im hu schar makol b'kablanus gam kein aser. Even if you, as a matter of fact, hired everybody b'kablanus, but what is the minig hamakim? Is the minig hamakim that all the workers are kablanim, or is the minig hamakim that the adrichal is a kablan and the rest of them are not? He says, take a look at the Bir Halacha, where we explain the Bisadeh, that when it comes to doing work in the field, you could be Soymech on this cooler of Rabbi Kiva Eger b'mekam hefsid. So if you see, if your wheat is ready to be harvested, and you see the weather forecast, it's going to pour next week, which is going to destroy your wheat. So it's mamish shasat chak to get the wheat harvested on Shabbos. So now you want to hire a kablan to do the wheat harvest, to do avodas hakarka on Shabbos. You want to hire him b'derech kablanus. So I should change that. You can't do it if you're hiring him bedafka to do it on Shabbos. That right away is not kablanus. You're doing it to hire him on Shabbos. Kablan is, he could do the job whenever he wants. So exactly what the case is of a makam atchak, a makam hefsid, where you need to hire a kablan, I'm not sure. Aval babayis, but when it comes to construction work, tzarich iyan im yesh lahakal bazeh du neged das kama paiskim, v'ayin b'shari tshuva b'shem noida b'Yehuda. Oiskat neches, the Mishnah Berurah said that if you're hiring a kablan to do work ba Medina, what does ba Medina mean? Says the Mishnah Berurah, if within the town limits you're hiring a kablan to do work on mechubal l'karka, you're not allowed to do that because that's not petzina. It's toich ha-Medina, so that means Yidden are walking around and they're going to see the work being done, and it's mechubal l'karka, so they're going to know that the work is being done for you. So even though the kablan is inherently mutter, it's also because of maris ayin. Hatchum is cut and test. Or if it's done outside the city limits, but it's within the tchum. If it's within the tchum, then some people go there on Shabbos, and you have a marasayin problem. Ois cut and yud, then it's aser lahanicha, it's aser to allow the work to be done. Isa b'sifri, b'sefer Chasidim, it's brought down in the Sefer Chasidim, Siman Shem Ches, Ma'isa ba'adam echad, there was a story that occurred with one person, shesakar ein Yehudi livnei speisai b'kablanos. Somebody went and hired an Eino Yehudi to do construction work, to build him a house with kablanos. So again, kablanos, you're paying him $50,000 for the job. You're not telling him when he has to work. He could work according to his own schedule. So if he chooses to work on Shabbos, it's adaited in Avshei Kovid. He's deciding on his own to work on Shabbos. The Yid is not telling him to work on Shabbos. So inherently this is mutter. There's no Amir Lakum. It's only also because of Maris Ayin. Says the Sefer Chasidim, there was a Maisa where somebody did this. V'haya ha'ena Yehudi b'ayna b'Shabbos. And the Eino Yehudi Taka did construction work on Shabbos. V'hayu misramim alav. And people went to Ruvain and they complained. They said, what's going on over here? You have a guy doing work for you on Shabbos. V'loy chashish lakach. And he didn't care. He didn't stop the Eino Yehudi. It didn't take too much time. That this land where the work was being done on Shabbos did not remain, not for the owner, not for the owner's children, meaning he lost it all over because he did work on Shabbos. Let's just push a little bit further to finish today's page according to the Dirshu schedule. Says the Ramah Hagah, short little Ramah here. Va'afilim dar ben agoyim. Let's say this Yid does not live in a Yiddish neighborhood. He lives essentially in a Goyish neighborhood. Is there marasayin? We're saying now that there's only a marasayin problem if it's mechubal karka, and it's ba Medina, it has to be in the city. Says the Ramah, not so fast. Afilu dar ben agoyim. Even if you're a Yid and you don't live in a Yiddish neighborhood, you live amongst Goyim. So you might say, okay, I could hire a Kablan to do work by Mechobel Karka because there's no Marasayin. I live amongst Goyim. Says the Ramah, not so fast. Va'afilu dar ben agoyim. Yesh lachish la'orchim haboyim sham. You have to worry about guests that come to your locale. Maybe it is a hotel, and there are some Yiddish guests there. Or maybe you yourself have guests. I live near Beisai, or your own family members. You don't spell out your business arrangements to everybody in your household. So maybe people in your own house are looking and saying, how does he do that? How does he have Tony doing work on Shabbos? I don't understand. Is it the Eschir Yoim? So says the Ramah, you have to worry about that. And it would be Marasayin in that case too. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Imdar Ritzon Eloymar, Shu Dar Michutz L'Tchum Hayir. Let's say a Yid lives not in a Yiddish neighborhood, and he doesn't live within the Tchum of the Yiddish neighborhood. V'gam ein ir acheres b'sech Tchumai. And there isn't another Yiddish neighborhood within your Tchum. So this guy lives mamish isolated. He lives ben agoyim. Afilu hachi aser. The Ramah says it's still aser to have a kablan do work by mechobel acharka. Yesh lachim la'archim de mikloi legabei v'yechashtu. What happens if you invite guests for Shabbos? They're going to see that an Eino Yehudi is doing work by mechobel acharka on your property on Shabbos. They're going to be choshed that you hired a per diem employee. When we're going to be making later on, and we're going to say that you're allowed to do this chutz l'tchum, that's where you live in a Yiddish neighborhood. The work that's being done is out in Binghamton. The work that's being done is out in chutz l'tchum in the boondocks. So over there, there's taka no Maris Ayin problem. Okay? Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. The schus of limud HaTorah should be making against Klal Yisrael. The Ranshim should send Yeshua's refuahs parnasa and shidduchim to all those in need, and we should be zeicher to see the BS Gal Tzedek b'meherav yameinu amen. Be well.